There he is. Hello,
Hey,
everyone, and welcome to today's Salon webinar, where we explore topics that shape your research, career, and academic life. I'm Adam Smith, and I'll be your host for this lunchtime session and also one of the speakers for today. And today's theme might sound a little bit of a throwback to Dale Carnegie, but in reality, it's more relevant than ever. How to win friends and influence people in academia. Because let's face it, success is in research isn't just about brilliant ideas, papers, or experiments. It's about people, most importantly. It's about finding allies and building collaborations, learning how to advocate for yourself and your work, and surrounding yourself with people who lift you up, especially when things get tough. And today, as I said, I myself will be presenting alongside Emre Yavuz. Hi, and Emre's just joined us at the 11th hour. I was starting to panic. Hi, Emre, how are you?
hey, good, thank you. Yeah, I was just sorting out my password, so I'm so glad that's resolved now, just in time.
And you're out and about again, I see.
Yeah, so I'm actually at a hackathon today. So yeah. Delighted to
Brilliant.
be here. So thank you so much.
Well, Emre is a PhD student at UCL in the Spires Lab whose work blends neuroscience, technology, and imagination. But beyond the research, Emre is also passionate about building meaningful professional relationships that support a fulfilling and impactful career. And as most of you will know, I'm Adam Smith. I'm the Programme Director for Dementia Researcher, and I've worked across the NHS, government, and research to build partnerships, influence policy, and more importantly, to support people, which is why it's a pleasure to talk to you today. And together, we're going to share our thoughts for around 10 minutes each, followed by some Q&A, and we're going to ask some key questions and hopefully provide some top tips on this topic. And then after the live stream, we'll hopefully have a chance to give you an opportunity to speak as well and to share your own thoughts. Because Emery, you and I didn't get a chance to chat beforehand about who's going to go first.
Yeah. I don't mind, honestly. If you want to go first, I can go first. Up to you.
Okay. I'll tell you what, I'll give you the benefit of a few
Yeah.
minutes
Okay.
rest
Yeah.
then. And
Okay.
I
Yeah.
will go first. So if everybody will just bear with me 1 second, I have slides which I will bring up over here somewhere, and then I will press a button to start them. There we go, and I will share my screen again. Got it. Perfect. There we go. So it's me speaking. All too often I have to ask the questions, and then just from once in a while, there are topics that um, I didn't get a lot of people offering to talk to, and this is one of those subjects, and I don't really know why, because in preparing for today's talk, what I realised was that I feel like so much of what I'm going to suggest today are things that you will already know. So apologies in advance if I'm not teaching you anything new or providing anything helpful, but hopefully, if nothing else, it'll be a good reminder of the things that you are already very aware of. So let's get into it. So I'm going to start by saying this title for today's session is absolutely stolen from Dale Carnegie. And Dale Carnegie once said, "You can make more friends in 2 months by becoming interested in other people than you can in 2 years by trying to get other people interested in you." And I think that's a really good quote. And a lot of what we're going to talk about today is about how you build those relationships with other people, and also why you might want to, and how those relationships might help your career over time as well. And in also doing some research, what I did was I went back and I skimmed Dale Carnegie's book, which is somewhere behind me on the shelf somewhere. Go away and Google Dale Carnegie if you're not. He was a big marketing kind of person. And Oh, we've skipped 2 slides. Apologies. No, we're going backwards. There we go. So what Dale Carnegie says is that to win friends and influence people, these are essentially his top 6 tips. And what I realized when I went back and read some of my blogs and some of my other content, clearly his book has influenced me in some way, because I made my own slides and tips first, then went away to find these and realized that we were saying the same thing. So showing a genuine interest in people, smiling. It's incredible how far a smile can go when you meet new people, or even people you already know. It's very hard for somebody to be cross with you or to not engage with you if you're smiling at them. Remembering people's names, being a good listener, talking in terms of the other people's interests, and making the other person feel important are all top ways to win friends and to bring them on board with you and your ideas when you get round to wanting to influence them. And so let's just recap on why this is all important. So we all know that your work is important, and having good relationships with people will really help amplify that impact. I mean, it's important in terms of the contacts and connections you have can help you when it comes to making future collaborations, when it comes to finding people to help you with things, whether that's mentors, or when you're looking for people to peer review your work, whether you're applying for grant applications in the future. It always helps if you we've talked about this before, about having a reputation and building your own profile and your own brand. And a lot of having your own profile and brand is about the network and the people you meet, and having people and connections in your network is so much a part of that. So benefits, as we've said, are there, and it also influences people around to your way of thinking. It's quite hard to present and move the slides on as well. So let's start by how you go about doing this. So networking without being awkward. And I think we all know that there are increasing ways to network now, whether that's at conferences, in the workplace, through social media and online, and through LinkedIn and other places. And there's different ways to go about this. Obviously, I find these kind of opportunities mean that how you react, and whether this is in person, online, means that you might slightly change. Of course, there are ways to smile online without smiling, in terms of the way you present, the way you type, the friendly way in which your messages come across is the equivalent of a smile. So again, it is possible to network without being awkward, but if you show genuine interest in people and be authentic and curious and kind and listen more than you talk in those first introductions, particularly, I think this will come across well. I was at the ADPD conference in Vienna last week, and I witnessed this firsthand, where I was sat in the main hall, and Henrik Zetterberg, who's a real rock star in the biomarker field, it also helps that he's an incredibly friendly, welcoming person. But I saw so many people approach him after his talk and in the hallway, wanting to talk, and in every instance you could see that people were slightly awkward to do it, but they wanted to thank him, they wanted to say what great work he did, and you could see that they were nervous in doing this. And a couple of people I saw the first time had a card to give to him, and you can have a way to break that ice and have in your mind a reason why you want to talk to them. And it can simply be to say that you really liked what they presented, that you enjoyed their talk, and nobody ever doesn't like hearing those things. So I wrote a blog on effective networking some time ago. It's on the Dementia Researcher website. You can go and have a look, making friends when you're the newcomer, because I think I'd been talking to a few people who are in new labs and were finding it quite awkward to find new colleagues. And God, I've said smile again. I'm really sorry if I'm repeating myself. Smile and introduce yourself, ask open questions, find common interests, follow up with small gestures count. Goodness, I'm being so repetitive in my slides here. And then I said the same thing on listening. Key to effective PI leadership is active listening. I find is particularly useful as well. So it's not just blandly showing, but actually repeating back people's questions to them when they ask you. So when they ask you what you think, you go back and say, and what do you think on that topic as well? So don't just be the person that asks and answers a question. Giving people an opportunity to also answer their own question can really start to build that conversation and build a trust and rapport and show that you're interested backing that person as well. If you find yourself on the receiving end, particularly, that's a great way to build connections. So how do you turn your colleagues into allies? Well, I have 3 top tips on this. Share credit genuinely. I think there are times and places where you need to big yourself up and take all the credit, particularly interviews, grant applications, other places like that. But when it comes to trying to turn your colleagues into allies, sharing credit is really important, and giving people an opportunity to comment on things and making sure that, you know, whether you're giving a presentation at a conference, whether you're writing a paper, even if they're not collaborators, there are places when you write a manuscript where you can recognize contributions of others, even if it's not in authorship. Making yourself reliable. So offering to somebody I used to work with a while ago, had great relationships with their supervisors, with everybody they worked with, and I was really curious about how they did this, and I watched them very closely over the course of that year that we worked together. And what I realized is that every time somebody went to them with a problem, the first thing that they would always answer with was, how can I help? And I think when people come to you and are talking to you, or when you're having a conversation with somebody, asking how you can help them is a great way to build relationships. And it's not just good enough, though. I mean, they might not want help, but asking them how, rather than jumping to the conclusion of this is a solution and this is what I will do for you, asking people how you can help, and then making sure that you follow through on that and do those things is a great way to build your network and to build friendships and collaborations. And then, recognizing that as well. Mentors and advocates. We talk about this a lot in Dementia Researcher, is the importance of mentors. I stand by that, seeking mentors actively, and don't wait for people. Mentors can be brilliant at helping you win friends and influence people, because they can make fantastic introductions and themselves become friends. Dementia Research community has a place. Everybody who joins up is asked, would you like to be a mentor? And if you go into the connecting section and apply a filter to say who said yes to this question, and then apply another filter, which is what field do they work in, everybody there has said that they're willing to be mentors to other people. And it's the simplest thing to be able to send a quick message through the surface saying, hey, I'm looking for a mentor. Could we, you look like you might be useful. Could we arrange a chat to talk about that? And then in that meeting, be clear about your goals, show gratitude, follow their advice, and give them feedback the next time you meet on how helpful they were to you. Is a great way to keep that collaboration and keep that mentorship going, because mentors are probably going to be your greatest friends in academia. Have I moved on? I have. And oh, I should say the Spider-Man emoji, of course, the other important thing there is to give back. If you're going to be mentored by somebody, do pay that forward. I think even if you're at the earlier stages of your career as a PhD student or the later stages, it is quite possible for you to mentor somebody. If you're in your third year, somebody who is in their first year of their PhD would find it incredibly helpful to have somebody who is a year or two ahead of them in the process as their mentor, because they've got close, arguably more so than somebody who is far more senior and a professor, because you can relate to their experiences far more. You've had more recent opportunity to go through the same things that they have, and so you can be a friend to other people as well by acting as a mentor and volunteering to mentor other people. And again, when we posted before about don't just wait for this to happen, you could post in the community now to say, hey, this is me, this is my experience, in the welcome section, and make clear in that you're happy to be contacted by people if they're looking for mentoring. Again, this is another great way, by being mentored and mentoring other people, to build your connections, networks, and friendships. So quick practical tips: introduce yourself clearly and memorably, follow up with personalized messages, offer help and resources proactively to other people, ask how they'd like you to help them, be visible, importantly as well, to attend events, online communities like Dementia Researcher, and participate in things. Participating in things and turning up is one of the best ways you're going to find to be able to act upon the advice you get today and to build those relationships. And when networking gets tough, like I saw at ADPD this week, remember that everyone feels awkward sometimes. You're certainly not alone. And remember your successes. Take breaks, recharge, and return. You can, even the most introverted of people can do this. I promise. And if it takes time to ease into it, you can start doing that. Online is a great way to start. So final thoughts: I really do think that relationships are your most valuable asset. I've been really fortunate to work in the field of dementia research for about 15 years now. We created Join Dementia Research, and in my time working on Join Dementia Research, I met hundreds of clinical researchers delivering pharmaceutical trials, delivering clinical and care trials, people working in the NIHR, and people working in hospitals at the front line of delivering memory clinics and services. And then through my time at Dementia Researcher, the only way that Dementia Researcher really operates is through the connections and friendships and relationships that I've managed to build. I hate taking all the credit for this, but Dementia Researcher is mostly me. It is me that runs it. And through what that means is, when I decide to make a podcast on something, or when we need a blog written or something, or when we're doing these things, I know people who we can approach, and it's only through that networking and building those friendships and relationships over many years that that's been possible. I'll give you another example. I was at the ADPD conference last week. I knew we were going to record 2 podcasts. Of course, to make 2 podcasts, we need 8 people. We need 4 people on each show. I hate to just turn up unprepared. So in advance, I bumped into 2 people beforehand who I knew were going to be there, who I had professional relationships with, and I was able to ask them if they'd be on the podcast. Both of them said yes. Then I put a call out through social media for 2 more. A couple of people came to us and said, yes, I'll be there. And then I arrived at the conference not knowing who the last 4 guests will be. And that was because I was absolutely confident that during the 2 days before the first podcast would be made, that I would meet people and I would be able to talk to them. I would tell them what we did. I would talk to them about the podcast, and I would be able to both provide them with the opportunity to go on that, but also that I was so confident that we would find people And we did. So Emma Garland has never been on a podcast before. Susan Roll has never been on the podcast before. Both of these were people that I met at the conference, spoke to them about their work, about what they were doing, and they both came on the podcast as a result of that. And that's all happened in the space of 48 hours. So that's why building these connections, and now they've done this once and I know them, I feel confident that in the future, next time I need somebody who knows a lot about centenarians and the 100+ study, that Susan is somebody I now have a connection with because she once came on the podcast. We met. We had a discussion there that I know I could approach Susan again in the future to potentially do something with us. And we made that connection and that relationship. And that's why this is important and how it can help you. That's enough from me, I feel. And I'm going to shut up now, stop sharing my screen, and invite Emre to come back. Emre, I hope going first I haven't stolen everything you were about to say. I took a certain path with this, which was perhaps a little bit different. So I'll invite you to present now. Are you going to be using slides?
Yes, I am going to be, yeah.
Do you want to try and make that
share
work?
them, yeah. Yeah, I'll try and share them now. Sure. Yeah, let's share the entire screen. If I can you?
We can. Yep,
Because
I can see.
Okay, brilliant. Okay, shall I turn my camera off when I'm actually talking, or keep it on? I'll keep it on. Yeah.
I don't suppose it matters as long as we're looking at your slides. We haven't got mirroring.
Perfect. Okay, brilliant. Yeah. Okay, sure. Right. So you can see my slides now. I'll put it into presentation mode. Can you see that?
Yeah, that's perfect.
Brilliant.
That's
perfect.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
Great. Amazing. Yeah. So thanks, everyone, for coming and listening. I guess I want to. So I'm a PhD student, and so I've been going to lots of sort of networking events, conferences, and over the years, and I want to maybe share what I've learned from and other areas as well in life, what I've learned about meeting people, finding meaningful connections that actually last. So I'm going to take you through some slides. So the first thing is start small, but be consistent. So if you're going, whatever event you're going to, even if you just find one person or two people that have very common interests in a crowd of 100 people, that's enough, because once you speak to one person, they're going to introduce you to their circle, and then they're going to introduce you to their circle. So it's a kind of knock-on domino effect. So just start very small, but be incredibly consistent. So never stop asking them questions, always find out more about them. So keep asking them, keep asking them questions. As soon as they say something, ask them another question, So basically you want them to talk about themselves as much, and you want to do the least talking in a way, because then they will go away thinking, oh, this person is such a nice person, because you've let them talk about you, to talk about themselves. So that sort of comes into understanding what makes someone tick. So what sort of things do they like talking about? So when you're in a conversation with them, what does the topic tend to be about? What kind of things do they kind of try to steer the conversation towards? And then you adapt to that. So it's like a two-way thing. So you see what they're interested in talking about. Let's say sports cars, or they love football or something like that. And then obviously you then tailor your questions to, when you're next having a conversation, you might prompt them about that topic or something that they really enjoy, because then the light bulb's going to turn on in their head and they're going to be really happy that they've been asked something that they are really happy about. And so if you understand what makes them tick, I think that's a great sort of door opener to better conversations. So follow their activity is the next thing, and spur them on. So not just in person, but if you follow them on Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, regularly like their posts if you're generally interested in what they do, because that you would be doing that if you're reacting to their post, or you might say react with a love heart and then say something like, this is fantastic, or this is great work, I'm looking forward to seeing what you're doing next. Or you might say what you like about what they're actually doing, or this is really innovative approach, have you tried this, or I'm doing something similar to that sort of thing. If you actually comment on their activity on the social media platforms, they'll be more likely to remember you, and the comment will remain there, so you'll be in their consciousness, and they'll be more likely to then, when you next see them in person, more likely to engage with you, or more likely to invite you to events that they might be attending or holding if they see that you care and you are actually respecting and appreciating what they do. So comment on them and compliment their achievements, basically. So keep giving them positive feelings and saying positive things to them, and that will be returned without you thinking about it. If you've been following them online, again, that goes to back to my last point, meet them in person. So if you're interested in someone's activity, ask them to meet face to face for a coffee, because then it's more memorable, because they remember when they met up with you in X, Y, and Z location, and the conversation flows more naturally because you don't have the nuance hidden on Zoom calls or on Teams calls. So you basically get better at, you basically have a more often longer conversation, and therefore you talk about other things, more likely to talk about other things than if you're online. So you're more likely to talk about non-academic social things that might open up new doors for you that you didn't realize. So they might have something that they enjoy doing that you realize you enjoy, like a hobby or a particular interest like music, art, whatever. They might have an event which they share with you, and that, or something that's happening in London that you really want to, you didn't realize was happening and you want to see. So, but that only comes about if you have a sort of face-to-face conversation, and online, naturally, people might be less subconsciously likely to open up, so more likely to maybe bottle in on an online conversation. So if you try to meet them face to face. If you find time in your diary and you can both do it, then definitely that's a way to make somebody's a connection more meaningful and memorable. Tell others about events that are happening and ask them to join you to attend them. So let's say that somebody else loves sort of fintech or events relating to sort of the energy industry, and you know that next week there's a health show that you're going to, or a science fair, and you think it will be very or a hackathon, or some kind of event where you think they would benefit from it. Say, do you want to join me? Or say something like, I have a spare ticket. Do you want to come with me? Do you want to and if they feel they're being invited, or they feel they're being thought about, so they see that somebody else is actually cares about them and what they like doing, that will make them think more highly about you, because they'll be obviously very happy that you thought about them and that you made the effort to reach out to them. That will therefore strengthen your bond. And even if they don't want to attend because they can't or whatever, they'll remember you next time and they'll be more likely to return that. So definitely having a sort of the +1 idea and trying to use that with the new people you meet, even with strangers you've just met, is a very good way to actually strengthen bonds that I've found has helped me make better friends from these sorts of conferences, for example. If you meet someone in person, ask them to connect with them on social media. So don't leave the event without hitting their LinkedIn, Twitter, or Instagram. And then, so it goes to what Adam and Dale Carnegie were sort of saying about following up, or show interest, basically. So if you connect with them on Twitter or LinkedIn, Instagram, what you do is you meet them at the event, then you connect with them, and then 2 days after that, I would say within the next 48 hours, send them a follow-up message saying, hi, this is what I do. It was lovely to meet you. As a reminder, I'm a PhD student in neuroscience, and I'm very interested in this. If you ever want to collaborate or meet up to talk more about your interests, or discuss anything, that you might have common ground in, you can send them a short message like that. And basically that just opens the doors to you strengthening your bond and possible collaborations as well as friendships with that person. So yeah, that's say yes to as many opportunities as you can outside your normal bubble, to trying to put yourself into as many different bubbles with people from different backgrounds as you can. So if you identify what resonates with you, so music, culture, sports, fitness, whatever, join as many different social circles as you can. Basically apply all these sorts of principles to every single circle you're in. So apply the same principles to every circle, and then you'll have a kind of an exponential reinforcing effect, because these kind of dialogues will develop in every single circle, and therefore you're more likely to get into other circles for each of the smaller circles. So then you'll sort of exponentially grow your network without you realizing or having necessarily consciously thought about it. Always smile, which is what again what Adam was describing about, being smiling when you meet strangers or people you don't know or do know. Smiling goes a long way. Think about how you can make someone else feel better. So it's always about them, not about you. It's never about you. It's always about the other person. How can I improve their day? How can I lift their spirit? How can I make them feel better about themselves? Give them a compliment. Tell them what you like, what they're wearing, or tell them that you really like how they do something, or you really like their way of designing PowerPoint slides, or you really like how they present a particular idea or whatever, in a conference, or how they describe themselves, or you really like the elevator pitch that they give, you know what I mean? All those sorts of things can definitely boost someone's spirit, even just a compliment about something, nothing to do with what you've necessarily been discussing in conversation. So yeah, I mean, that's basically everything I have to say. And these are the sort of different social groups I've been interacting with. So my orchestra, hackathon here, my choir, friends from conferences. So yeah, but thank you for watching.
Thank you, Emre. You reminded me. So I've had this conversation a couple of times now in the past with others about how to find like a particular person. So if you're on a mission to either potentially do something like get a job in a particular lab where somebody works, or you're really looking for this specific person, or somebody, maybe not a specific person, but somebody like that, to collaborate on a paper or help with a research grant or to be a mentor. I've spoken to a couple of people about this now, is in terms of becoming an absolutely appropriate level stalker of that person, not anything inappropriate, but become their best stalker. So I know from myself, if they have a social media presence in some way, if they're on LinkedIn or Blue Sky or one of the other platforms, is to start by following them, of course, and read you tap the button to say alert me every time this person posts, and then like everything they ever post, because that'll give them a notification. And I swear by this, that they might not look at you the first time you like something, but if you like everything somebody posts, and they post fairly regularly over the course of a couple of weeks, I guarantee that person will have a look and go, who is this person that's liking everything they do? They're going to tap your name, they're going to read your bio. So it's important at that point to make sure that your LinkedIn profile, that your bio is professional and appropriate and something that you'd like them to read, and they'll look at you. And then if you do that for a couple of weeks more, they'll start to remember who you are. And then you go down that route of it's a term that's not necessarily used in this space particularly often, but if you send them a direct message, you slide into their DMs in some way saying, hey, I really liked your papers, I'm looking for a mentor right now, I appreciate you're really busy, would you have time to have a chat in the next couple of weeks? I wrote a blog on how to make cold introductions, and I stand by that. I think it's a couple of years old now, but it's great in being, keep it simple, keep it very clear in what you're asking for. Don't ask them 6 different things. It's kind of one ask that they can very clearly understand and act upon really simply. Don't make them have to think about it or take lots of time, otherwise your email will just sit there and keep getting to the bottom of the list. Whereas if you make a really simple request, which is, would you be free sometime next month for a meeting? Is there somebody who manages your diary I could talk to try and get 10 minutes? You're much more likely to get a quick reply to something like that. So how do you go about this, Emre? Have you had a situation where there's something, have you had an awkward conference moment? Are you good
Yeah.
at that? Are you
Uh,
confident?
yeah, I mean, yeah, so I mean awkwardness, like I guess trying to, so I mean I think about the conversation, and if I'm having an awkward moment, I might say something that kind of brings them back to their topic, or I try and sort of reground or sort of recenter the conversation, so I sort of get them basically to go back to a topic which maybe they feel more comfortable talking to me about. And then, as you said about liking people's posts, like I always do that, so I follow them straight away. I like what they post, and I kind of tell myself, oh, well, it's not something I've done wrong. It's not necessarily that I've hurt them. It's just the natural chemistry that if they don't understand or get me, that's not something that's not my problem. It's something I should worry about. But I'll just keep being respectful and appreciative and show that I like what and respect what they do, and then I sort of move on with it. But I still, as you say, keep showing interest in isn't to the extent where I'm not necessarily trying to meet with them or trying to necessarily want to get their attention, but just show that I respect what they do. And then yeah, so I keep the vibe positive, but not any
It
more
really,
strong.
it
Yeah,
really is the simplest way, isn't it,
yeah,
of making somebody aware that you even exist.
yeah.
And you know, if you've, I mean, obviously you don't have to like everything they do. If you don't actually like what it is they're doing, don't do that. But I think it's a really simple way of making them aware that you exist, and also showing you have to kind of do that is the paying back. I think particularly um
Hmm.
with social media particularly, there's a tendency, if you like, to either, I think you tend to find there's
Yeah.
two different people. There's those that only ever put things out and never comment on anything or never do anything. They just put some things out. I think liking other people's posts, retweeting and commenting and actually replying is a great way to build that initial connection. I know social media particularly has had some peaks and troughs, and it feels like it's at a bit of a trough right now. It feels like
Hmm.
it's at a bit of a low. Um, but it is a good way to make those initial connections. And LinkedIn as well. Actually taking time to comment, not just liking as well, I think is a good way to do it. How important is it? How important do you feel these connections are? I
Yeah.
mean, I think this, like the connections you make over the course of your career, I think are probably more important than anything else. If you know you have a problem, something happens in your career, immediately having in mind 5 different people I know I could go to ask for advice or to support something.
Hmm.
I
Yeah.
feel it's one of the, whenever people have asked for me to mentor them, I've kind of always been a little bit insecure, saying, I'm not sure how much use I'll be. The only thing I'm useful for is I know a lot of people who
Yeah.
know stuff. And so I can be
Yeah.
quite useful in facilitating introductions. That's probably my superpower.
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
have many. I'm not much of an academic myself, but I do know loads of people.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, having a small network, even small 4 to 5 people, or people who you can really trust and who maybe been seeing more frequently at conferences, and there's like you get a few people who reappear more than other people, so those people are sort of more close to you. You can always go to them, and then they can help introduce you to different people, or at least as long as you have that sort of core network, I think that's enough to keep you going and to give you the sort of positive, um, give you that positive spirit, and then yeah, and they can help you in ways you don't realize. But I think yeah, definitely trying to find a few um, close friends who you're more, who you follow up with more than others, and then sort of making real efforts with those, and then yeah, seeing how it goes from there. Yeah.
Uh, how do you? I mean, obviously, as a PhD student, I don't know if you've decided not to put you on the spot as to what you're going to do next, and that's always an awful question to ask anybody doing their PhD. But how do you approach self promotion, conscious that it helps you without feeling awkward or boastful? How do you have you started on that work yet?
Yeah, I mean, in terms of, I guess it's like, well, when you say boasting and sort of not, I guess overselling yourself. I mean, I think
It's
I
awkward, isn't it?
yeah. I think I keep it to the sort of, I start with the base and about who I am, PhD student, and what I'm interested in. I keep to my sort of core interests. I keep it sort of very short in terms of what I say about myself to begin with, and then if people are interested and they ask me more and they clearly care and want to know more about me, then I'll keep opening it up, but I'll try very hard not to bore them because I'll often, if you sometimes when you're with someone you can see they're just not interested, I sort of politely, say something like, "Oh, I have to go now," or I have to, go to a next event, or because I don't want to sort of waste their time if they're not interested or feel they're in a mutual sort of relationship or friendship. So yeah. I mean, I start sort of with the sort of maybe core key facts, like two or three things about me, and then but I don't sort of go into the details about boasting about what I've done or anything like that. I'll just say I'm a PhD
Is
student
it,
because that's already enough of interest for them to
and is
ask
that a
me
UK
anything.
thing? Is this a British thing? Are we just too modest? Are we just too? I feel in other cultures and other parts of the world, people are much better at, like, you know, you read their
Mhm.
LinkedIn and they make clear, oh, I've won this award, I've got this qualification, I've peer reviewed, 1,000, I've published 1,000 papers. This is my H index. Are we not very good at that in the UK? Do you think?
It's just that people maybe don't know how to sell themselves necessarily, or yeah, it's not that. I mean, yeah, it's maybe because I had to learn how to really advertise myself like on these platforms and how to write CVs well, and these were things that I was, learning throughout my career. I think it's just maybe it isn't. I mean, obviously, it varies in the person, but maybe it isn't as ingrained in our curriculum or early teaching. We're not actually taught really how to adapt our how to sell ourselves to different audiences and how to actually adapt our presence based on the situation. Something that everyone thinks is sort of subconsciously learned and you sort of learn from experience. But I think people there's place for space for people to actually learn these things more for the uni curriculum or to be a course developed that's actually part of their degree where they learn how to present themselves to different audiences and how actually best to sell yourself, because I never had any real tutoring on that throughout my school years or undergrad or masters or PhD even. I had to reach out to people. So I think it's because of the fact that people have to really work hard themselves to do that part and sort of look for every resource they can. It's
Yeah.
like it's the effort, and therefore they don't
There's a
really have
fine
the
line,
interest.
isn't there, between
Yeah,
boasting and self promotion, I think.
yeah,
Let
yeah, yeah.
just think about this whole influencing. Have you I mean, there are various times, I think, through your research career where you need to influence people. I guess thinking about the stage that you're at, let's
Yeah.
see. So you're doing your PhD. You've got a
Mm.
PhD supervisor who has their own ideas as to, where things should go or what you're doing.
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
there will be occasion, I would imagine, where a PhD student goes, I want to influence the research direction we're going in now.
Mhm.
You might disagree with your supervisor or want to take a slightly different direction.
Yeah.
How do you approach influencing a situation like that, do you think, to go down so it goes your way?
Yeah, that's yeah, it's a very good question. I mean, it's something that I've recently been thinking about. Um I think maybe well, first of all, showing your supervisor that you're really interested in a particular topic by posting about it more on social media and LinkedIn and things like that, so they get the idea that they understand what your interests actually are and that's what you really care about. And so like if you show them that's where your attention is, you sort of train or you reinforce in their mind how you kind of give them the idea that that's really what you care about, and they start thinking differently. So it's like, I guess, through the things you post and how you direct their attention, you sort of, it's like a mind sort of game you play with them to get them to sort of maybe you're kind of rewiring them to sort of really think about their interests, but also you can link it or trying to tie it into your current subjects and navigation ability. But I also like music, and I was like, well, there's nothing in that field really that really links them together in such a way. How about we kind of use this task that they've done and we think about something? So I guess building on always 100% linking it back to their foundations and trying to always tie it into something that they really love in anything you sell definitely is another starting point. And maybe also if you have a secondary supervisor, trying to basically use your network as much as you can, and your thesis committee as well, to trying to get them to help advocate for you, or through their lab and their students trying to do something even if you can't do it for your primary supervisor, you can try and do it for your secondary or for your committee, who can then influence the primary supervisor. So it's like using other people who are in the network and who have power to influence your primary person, using their skills and their know-how to sort of help you steer the boat. So I think it's like maybe like social sort of psychology aspect to that as well. Yeah, I mean that's what I feel has sort of worked for me, perhaps. But luckily, I haven't got to the position where I've really been in disagreement. So yeah, it's very hard to say exactly what how it would pan out. Yeah.
I read a few blogs on and watched a couple of TED Talks beforehand on how to influence people, and
Yeah.
the stuff I got back from this was that people were more likely to be open to your ideas if they themselves felt heard as well. So
Yeah.
again, it comes back to what we presented on earlier, which is asking genuine questions and reflecting back and what you've understood, but then sharing your view and trying to find some common ground. So framing your idea that's aligned to their interests. So I think it's
Yeah.
really the person you're trying to influence in some way, really trying to understand what their goals are,
Yeah.
what they want out of this, so that
Mhm.
you can align yours or show how your idea and your suggestions will meet their aims as well.
Yeah.
I think, and that'll reduce some of that resistance. And also using stories, not just facts, I think is came up, and
Mhm.
definitely avoiding arguing or being
Mhm.
defensive, even if you disagree. Keeping cool, uh, it just shows that you're confident and
Yeah.
you're in
Mhm.
control, which makes you more persuasive as well,
Yeah.
and guiding rather than push. Bring people around to
Mhm.
the perspective that allows them to reach the same conclusion that you have. So having a good evidence base for your idea, saying, look, we've discovered this is really interesting, and not being too hard with your ask. So if you're
Yeah.
suggesting that maybe you want some time for that, demonstrating how you can do this
Mhm.
within the scope, I think is helpful, particularly.
Definitely. Yeah.
And how do you ask for um how do you ask for support? How do you go? How have you asked for support or collaborations when you've been, found some tough going? I'm sure the Spires Lab is a very relaxed, amazing place to work, but as with every PhD, there's pressures at different times.
Mm. Mm.
How have you gone about that?
I guess my other co-PhD student, for example, in the lab, she has an industry background. I have an academic background, so I've often sort of gone to people who have different skills that complement mine, and who have different perspectives, and I've tried to hear their perspective on the situation or the difficulty I'm having. So I try and find people who have maybe a different approach or a different background to me to see if they can shed a new light on the situation. Yeah, and that can be in the lab or it can be on LinkedIn as well. So I might put a post reaching out to people on my social media networks, and or message a few people who I think are in a different field, but not so different they can't help me in my situation. So who's been on my feet a few years ago, for example, or a postdoc in a different lab, or someone who So I basically sort of spread the net a bit wider, and I try and sort of reevaluate my own views and see how, if other people are agreeing, disagreeing, how they complement mine. Therefore, I might use some of their solution with some of what I was already doing. So I kind of put the pieces of the puzzle together, and then I use that to help me go forward. So I sort of, it's maybe a blend of different perspectives into one that helped me, come to a better solution. Yeah.
Well, I'm going to come to some stats and stuff in a moment, but I'd love to hear from our participants in the chat. If you could, I'd love to know what your top tips are for making new friends, for networking, and also as well for how to change somebody's mind, or how to influence somebody's thinking around to your way of thinking, and how that can help you. I'd love to hear your thoughts on that in the comments. While you're thinking about that, I've got some stats. So apparently 85% of jobs are filled through networking, and academic opportunities are no different. So the more people you know, the more connections you're going to hear about opportunities. So it's really helpful when it comes to the job market, is your network of connections. And a LinkedIn study found that people with strong professional networks are 5 times apparently more likely to be promoted, from some LinkedIn research. What other stats have I got in here? Studies show that researchers with strong networks submit more successful grant applications. So the more you've published with a wide range of authors, you're more likely to get funded. We're actually, if anybody watching is attending the BNA festival in Liverpool at the end of this month, we're going to be running a live video podcast. We're going to record there at the careers zone. Emmy Yentl's going to host it. We've got Ian Harrison, who just won the ARUK award for Early Career Research Award a few weeks ago. We've got Fiona Ducourt, who is the director for the Drug Discovery Institute, and somebody else whose name escapes me, are going to do a live podcast on how to build yourself as a brand to help your academic career. So if you're attending the BNA Festival, do drop in and see us there. We didn't get any thoughts on our subject. Keep them coming, keep thinking, because it's almost time, I think, for us to wrap up now. But I've got what was, as ever, I round these shows off these days by taking we've trained a ChatGPT instance on all the content on our website. So that's every one of the hundreds of podcasts we've done over the years with the transcripts from those, every one of the over 550 blogs we've published. It's got all the text from those. It's got all the articles and everything we've ever published on our website. And I asked it, based on our content, to give us 10 top tips for winning friends and influencing people in academia. And this is what I'm going to give you now. So this isn't just generally from the internet, it's from all of our contributors. And number 1 was, be curious before being clever. Ask about others' work and listen before jumping in with your own. So we both suggested that as well. Follow up after meetings and events. A simple nice to meet you email goes a really long way, and it does make you more memorable. Number 3 was show up regularly. Visibility builds familiarity, and familiarity builds trust. So do show up to things. Turning up every Wednesday here in the salon, I strongly encourage that, of course, but going to online events, getting involved in things like iStart, which is absolutely free for students. That's ISTAART. It's run by the Alzheimer's Association. It's free for any students. And getting involved in attending their webinars, getting involved in the professional interest area that most aligns to your own work is a great way to be able to show up to things, and it doesn't all have to cost money. Be generous with praise and credit. Lift others up, they'll remember it. So when somebody does something great, reply, congratulate them, repost it online, and do meet them and welcome them. I saw somebody this last week. I remembered about a month ago that they posted a promotion, and the first thing I said was, "Oh, by the way, congratulations!" And it, whilst smiling, of course. Practice informal networking, chats over coffee, DMing with somebody on Blue Sky. I'm going to always say Blue Sky now because we don't like the other platforms anymore. Blue Sky. If anybody who's posting your X profile there in the chat, John, why are you wasting your time with X? Nobody's there anymore. Oh, I don't mean that. Go to Blue Sky. It's where all the researchers are at. Keep your online profiles up to date. Your future collaborations definitely, absolutely will Google you. So if you have a profile on Dementia Researcher website or on social media, keep those up to date. Ask for introductions. Mutual contacts can open doors without awkward cold emails. Offer help before asking for it. And then last of all, top 10 tip number 10 was stay authentic. People respond to real enthusiasm more than polished sales pitches. They were our top tips. And I don't know, Emre, have you got any final thoughts on this topic?
I mean, that always seems to cover, a lot of the things I've said. It's also, I guess also just re-emphasizing that it's about, you always think about them before you sort of thing. So putting others before you priority wise, thinking how, they're the sort of important one in the conversation. When basically that's the sort of maybe the key thing I want to emphasize. But I mean, the rest is sort of reiterating some of the things I've said already. So yeah.
So my last one, I guess, is influencing. I think influence is 10% magic and 90% showing up on time and being nice. And I think if you're always, be reliable, be encouraging, I think that combination opens more doors than your job title or your position ever will.
Yeah.
That's all we've got time for today. Thank you very much. Emre, your second time on, brilliant as always, on the salon. I can't remember if you're back later in the year, but thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
And we are going to be back next week. And I'm just going to remind myself what's happening next week as a little reminder. We'll be back in the salon next Wednesday at 12 noon at 8 p.m. We'll be back on the salon next Wednesday at 8 p.m. and we're going to be discussing patient and public involvement in what is looking to be one of our most ever popular sessions with over lots of people already registered, and there I will be guest hosting alongside Trevor Solomon, who is an Alzheimer's Society advocate and chair of the European Dementia Carers Working Group, and we're going to be talking about PPI. So do join us at 8 p.m. next Wednesday. In the meantime, thank you very much, everybody, for joining. Thank you, Emre, and we'll see you again next week in the salon.
Thank you, everyone. It's great speaking.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye. Thanks.